25th, and bring to you track and field information or track and field news. My thing that I'm doing to cover track and field. I've made a pledge to do my part to add to the recognition of track and field because it doesn't get the highlights and the media coverage unless you can go on YouTube and catch the clips on other media organizations that put it on YouTube. But I'm going to add my support for track and field because I was a track and field athlete for many years. During my time as a young boy growing up in Jamaica, we didn't quite get the coverage until you get to the major events like Boys and Girls Championships, Gibson Relays, and other than that, major championship events. But it wasn't something that was like followed, through, locally, until now. So I just decided I'm gonna help, with supporting my track and field community by carrying track and field news that maybe some people are not following, especially during this pandemic where nobody is really following or into sports the way they would like to. Track and field to me is one of them. The Olympics was canceled this year, and we took a hit. And they had it back up and running later on in the year with no Olympics. A lot of athletes got set back, and it's a tough thing psychologically to some people. This is their last chance. They're getting older, and next year's no guarantee they'll be in tip-top form. First of all, we have to make sure that track and field will be able to survive, especially the Olympics next year, because we have to get the pandemic under control, the COVID-19 pandemic. So that's that for now. But anyway, that's just my take. This caught my attention because I've been following track and field, and we have this young lady here. You see the picture right here. She's from the Bahamas, and her name is Miller-Uibo. Cries foul as Naser is again spared the suspension. This was reported Thursday, October 22nd. She's a Bahamas athlete, Olympian, and this I'm reading from the Jamaica Observer. And to get into the news story here, it says Paris, France. The women's 400 Olympic champion Shani Miller-Uibo yesterday criticized world athletics after the doping suspension of her rival Salwa Eid Naser was overturned. This young lady here, Naser, 22-year-old Naser, was provisionally suspended in June and charged with failing to meet whereabouts criteria, but the decision was overturned on Tuesday by World Athletic Disciplinary Tribunal. Interesting. Christian Coleman, by the way, from the U.S., the U.S. top 100-meter sprinter right now, is facing the same thing. It said the circumstances surrounding one mistake would have been comical were the consequences not so serious. Naser, who runs for Bahrain, beat Bahamian Miller-Uibo in 2019 World Championship by running the third fastest time in history of the event. Miller-Uibo had to settle for her second World Championship silver. And see, that's another thing. Uibo was favored running top-notch times in 2019, 400 and 200. And I think she was the favorite. Naser was up there in the top, probably second behind her. And she won. But, we have this little thing going on now, this controversy with her missing and then getting cleared. The Uibo had to settle for second during that 2019 World Championship. Now, it's saying here in a post on Instagram, Miller-Uibo demanded to know why Naser had been allowed to run. The World Championships were in September and October 2019. Between January and April of that year, according to the World Athletics, Naser had failed 3 times to fulfill her whereabouts obligation, although the last of those failures was on Tuesday deemed not her fault by the tribunal. Why was no action taken? Asked Miller-Uibo. Why was the athlete not provisionally suspended until 1 year and 2 months later? Oh, see, I'm just not reading this too. So she had the misses in last year during the World Championship time, leading up to the World Championship, but it's just now coming out. Wow, sound like funny business. Ebo says right here, she said, I cry foul play, and believe there's a deeper explanation of how world athletics allowed this to carry on. I'm going on further here. We need to ensure that in athletics, we the athletes are not competing against any administrators whose only goal is for athletes to run faster, jump farther, and throw further at any cost. Later, she added a comment saying she believed that the World Anti-Doping Agency would appeal the tribunal verdict to the Court of Arbitration in Sport. We understand that the time this process takes place can be frustrating, but the system must be independent, robust, and thorough in order to maintain integrity, said a statement released yesterday by World Athletics. The Athletic Integrity Unit, AIU, explained the power to impose provisional suspensions in whereabout cases only arises under the World Athletic Rule once a charge is issued, whatever that means. But whereabouts cases often involve complex factual scenarios that require investigation. Cases are generally not concluded soon after that date of the third whereabout failure, but often will only be finalized months later after all the necessary evidence supporting the charge is gathered. Also, that's the answer to why it was done a year and some months later. How long this takes depends on the specifics of each case. And that's all that there is on that story. So as you know, Christian Coleman had some issues also, and eventually was cleared. But for all ladies and gents out there that follow track and field, from the track and field community, all the top athletes have to go through random testing. Usain Bolt from my home country, Safa Paul, Johan Blake, Shelly-Ann Fraser, all the top athletes all over the world. But Jamaica got targeted because even though Jamaica has always been up there in the elites, we're not always winning gold medals, but we're always in the Olympic finals. Every Olympics have at least a couple of finalists, especially the last decade or two. And they get tested hard to the point where they're like, how little Jamaica can have such performance so consistently and actually beating the top-notch big bad US sprinters, in the US where nobody's expected to beat them, and Jamaica became a rival for the USA track and field community, where we were given a run for the money for many years in the name, especially Usain Bolt and Blake, Shelly-Ann Fraser and Elaine Thompson, and you name it, Veronica Campbell, all the way down. We have had a lot of successes. But when you start missing whereabouts testing, and they can't locate you, and you have no explanation. One thing I'm not clear on, because I've been out of the athletic, I didn't go through all this when I was an athlete competing for Jamaica back in the day. I came to college here on a scholarship. They started introducing NCAA random drug testing for athletes, but you had to be there available whenever it was your time. And this is something that they brought to the professional track and field athletes, because track and field became rampant with steroid abuse, performance enhancing drugs. So this is a way to level the playing field. But when you start missing it, and then you got caught, other people get banned, and then you in the same category miss also whereabouts, no reason, no explanation of why you miss, that can be explained away, and some people get away and some don't. Some face temporary suspension. It creates a black cloud on the track and field community and the athletes itself, and it kind of put a cloud on other athletes that are complying, performing, winning, and people start to go back together like, yeah, they may be getting away with something. And this is what track and field is working so hard to get away from. So this is not good. I don't like that system where if you miss three whereabouts calls to get tested and you never reached out after they reached to you and to let them know. I don't know what the case is. If they actually reached back and tried to give an explanation and they said, we're going to investigate, but we're going to let you compete and come up with what we find a year later. And why a year later? You miss your test. Um, it kind of iffy, because the way the performance enhancing drugs work, they cycle it. You have to take it within a certain time frame. You come off of it, you work out, you hit the weights, you hit the track, and after that one cycle finish, you might go back on another cycle to get yourself even stronger and continue through. You monitor your supposedly your diet and all them things there, and making sure you don't overwork your body. Because what it does, it make your workout performance enhancing drug. From the time I worked out, it probably hasn't changed much. You can do a lot more. You can do more in the weight room, do more on the track, more than your normal body could do on just some vitamins or something like that. Unless you're just a natural athlete where, you know, vitamins do it for you because you have a good training regimen, good recovery regimen, good weight training regimen, and a nutritional regimen without using performance, which does happen. But again, steroids abuse, performance enhancing abuse for sports has ruined it, especially for track and field. Our sports probably do it, football, baseball, um, basketball, but they don't get covered as much because I think there's a little cover up in every aspect of some of these other sports. But track and field you get nailed, especially after the Ben Johnson debacle back in 1988. I remember I was an athlete there. I ran for Jamaica on the 4x100 meter relay team, which placed fourth in the final back then. I mean, you can't tell now I'm a little older now. But I remember as a 100-meter guy who was thinking maybe I can hang in the sports a little longer, run the 100 meter, maybe do a little bit of pro track and field, which I never made it to the pros in track and field as far as longevity and making money out of it. I ended up working 9 to 5 after a while. Tried to do a little coaching, did a little consulting on the side, privately, but didn't make it. But I tell you, what's going on now is, Ben Johnson back then messed it up. Kind of almost went off track. I almost forgot the point I was trying to make. Ben Johnson ran that time, and everybody back then was like, whoa, 979. I myself, that was a 10.1 runner. Back then 10.1 was my best time, 10.2. And back then, top guys anywhere from 9.95s to 10 flat 10.1 was like top times. Even 10.2 was considered pretty decent. But when Ben Johnson came out and ran 9.79, they started doing 9.8s, and people like me was like, train hard. I don't think I had the best coaching and the best strength training and the best nutritional support. I did what I could for myself, and that's experience I've developed or gained from Jamaicans and young athletes. The college coaches that I was working with didn't prep me properly, but I did fairly good. But when I saw that, I didn't see how I could run that. Maybe if I had help and a good coach and a good weight training, I could have performed naturally without enhancing drugs. But that made me think there's no chance. There's no way in hell I can perform like that. That man is exceptional. Fast forward years later, almost every athlete running under 9.90, sub nines, 9.8s, 9.7s regular, 9.78s. Both come out, set how much world record. I mean, hell, he ran 9.58, beating his chest. You know, 10 meters, or so from the tape. And did several more times, 9 6s. But anyway, at least the US, the Caribbean, Africa, you name it, Europe, couple athletes come out running 9.8s. It became like, wow, a regular thing. But it started also making a cloud like, are these athletes legitimate? All because of the Ben Johnson. But even before Ben Johnson, there was athletes doing drugs. Russians, East Germany, when it was East Germany, had a massive drug program, we like to call it. Yeah, they had people like, it was a science top secret facility. Some info leaked years later. But even the women's 400 till this day, 47.6 by Marita Cope. No woman, the closest any woman has come was 48. And Nasir, this young lady, ran 48 last year, World Championship. And then Miller-Uibo from Bahamas, who we thought would have won. But I'm not going to go into this much longer. This is just something I wanted to cover. It is kind of iffy that it took them that long. Because I know when Coleman was caught last year with missing, they kind of resolved it right then and there. And about a month or two, if I remember correctly, before the World Championship started, and he was able to compete. And I believe it was closed. I don't know if he was caught from the year before and then just managed to clear it right before the World Championship. Nasir, her thing has just been closed just recently. And then, some of the athletes are lashing out now, and you make you wonder. You training hard, working out hard, and here we go again. Athletes missing tests, and then some are, getting off, and we don't know if they're getting cleared, without being in the room. What was the excuse that they said that this person is cleared and they dropped everything? While other people, what was their explanation and why they were turned down and banned? So, because as far as we know right now, Christian Coleman is banned unless he's get a chance to clear before next year. But, it's one of them things, man. We hope that athletes continue to speak out. I myself felt victim to competing against athletes back in the day that were on performance enhancing drugs. And trust me, boy, sometimes I remember back in the day, the word come up and it crossed your mind. Well, maybe I should, join in. If you can't beat them, join them. And but I was so scared of getting caught or getting sick from abuse in my body, not knowing what I'm doing. Centuries later now, these guys know how to beat the system and all that. Even though them seem like they're beating the random testing, know how to explain away missing certain amount of drug tests, random tests. And everybody knows these things are cycled. Because if you can't cycle it properly throughout the year and leading up to major events, you don't perform as well. You don't benefit from the effects of using the drugs, the performance enhancing drugs, and getting the best performance. But with that said, let's hope we keep the sport clean and look forward to some clean performances next year. Be mindful that hopefully the pandemic don't put a damp on things and we improve, get some good vaccines that can be trusted by the world, where we can feel like we have something to fight this and don't have a mass amount of people dying and ruining way of life, from sports to economics to regular everyday people just trying to make it. But anyway, that's it. Greg M on the go. That's my track and field sports information, sports news that I wanted to cover for now. So with that said, take care until next time.